Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to have you all here, whether it's a morning, afternoon, and evening for you. Welcome to the OS AppSec Days India Virtual Edition. I'm your host, Sunita. As we know about the AI, like artificial intelligence, because we are using in day to day life to make it easy, but it comes with a lot of risk as well. So, for in this session, we will get to know more about how to build secure AI systems. For that, we have our special speaker, Gautam Sundar, who is Senior Lead Engineer in Application Security. Hi, Gautam.
Hi, Sunita. Thanks for the warm introduction. Yep.
Yeah. So
Right.
now over to you. In this session, if anybody have some any queries and all, they can jot down in their notes, and they can keep write down in the chatbot as well. We will keep it in the last in the
Yep.
session.
All right. Good to start. Hope you can see my screen. Okay. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. And I'm glad to be part of the WASP AppSec Days India 2024 virtual edition. Today's topic is about building secure AI systems, which is a hot topic, artificial intelligence. So this session focus on creating AI systems by understanding what are the unique challenges and trying to apply some approach, take an approach. What is the approach that you can apply throughout the AI lifecycle? Let's get started. So myself, Gautam Sundar. I'm the cybersecurity professional with 12 years of experience, predominantly from the application security background. Currently, I'm heading the 3A security, which is like API applications and AI at SPH Media in Singapore. I'm active speaker and also a community contributor. I always wanted to give back to the community and always learn from the community. I also have my social media profiles. Feel free to reach out to any questions regarding the talk, or feel free to drop in your questions in the chat. I am happy to answer. Let's get started. Okay, agenda for today. We'll see some of the AI fundamentals. I know pretty much everybody now will know what is AI and what is the fundamentals on those. I'll touch upon some of those just to make sure it's kind of a refresher, just to make sure that we are aligned with the concept and everything. And we also look about overview of the unique challenges in AI, what is the approach that we take, and I'll also walk you through some of the AI SDLC phase, meaning that how security can be integrated in the AI software development lifecycle. We'll also dive into a practical example. I will take you something called Genie Bot to exactly see how we can, what is the approach that being discussed in the talk today. What we will not cover is not talk about AI or LLM attacks or debug of any tools, how to test AI or how to test LLM models and all that. And yeah, I will be ending the session with Q&A. Okay. So what is artificial intelligence? Very fundamental, right? I'm pretty sure everybody knows. It's basically kind of simulating human intelligence in machine, and then to perform tasks like learning, problem solving, interacting, and all that. So basically, what is artificial? The artificial thing is like algorithms that enable machines to stimulate like human-like intelligence, and then intelligence is like provided by ability to take the information, think about it, and make decisions. So basically involves machine learning, neural networks, and all that. Very basic. It's long story start. It's like basically trying to simulate or create the computers or system to act like human beings, right? Okay, quick history. AI is not something new. It's been over a lot of years. The history goes back until 1950s, where we had artificial intelligence as part of the research product, and then the subset came in 1990s, machine learning, where machines have been trained using multiple models and neural networks, and then there came a Deep Blue, which is a kind of a chess game which was developed by IBM, I think, in 1997. It also tried to beat one of the human player as well. And then came deep learning, which is again a ML technique that use neural networks to process information such as images, text, and all that. And late 2020s, we are in the era where we are actually interact with chat GPTs, which kind of a human simulation, act like human, talk like human, in terms of speech, audio, image, anything, right? So that's a quick history. It has evolved so many years and been trained on so many years. Okay, and there is always buzzwords around AI when we interact with many people, right? So there is AI, there is ML. Some people tell Gen AI prompts and all that. So this is just to make sure that clarify that AI is not ML, and GPT is something different, and LLM is something different. Overall, everything is a subset of artificial intelligence that I explained before. So everything is a subset. So AI is a outermost layer, which is representing the broadest concept, mimicking the human intelligence, right? And then people think that artificial intelligence is same as machine learning. And when it comes to security, people think that AI security is about LLM security. LLM in the meaning sense, the models are like Gen AI or something like that. No, that's not the case. So AI security is completely different from LLM security. When you think of AI security, you need to have a holistic view of understanding what exactly is being developed or what exactly is being used. So that's a key idea being here. So it's very important to know this. Okay. The core part of the talk today, AI security, the challenge. So this is one of the key question that's been asked in the recent HackerOne powered 8th annual report. So which of the following IT related risks are most concerned to your organization? Most of the organization responded saying that Gen AI or AI, right? Things have been changed, where people or security teams were focusing more on the OAS top 10 or like mobile top 10 or API top 10. Now things have been changed that they are trying to identify and understand LLM top 10s, or machine learning top 10 and all that, right? So Gen AI is very challenging. Not only Gen AI, overall AI is very challenging for cybersecurity professional to tackle with the emerging threats, understanding what exactly has to be done, where to start, and all that. So this is one of the challenge that every organization faces, and we will touch upon some of the approaches and how to get started. Though it not be extensive one, at least gives an idea to where to start taking the first step, so that it just helps you start with the AI security journey. Okay, this is also one of the question that been part of the AI security report by LACRA. So, what is one piece of advice given to the organization just starting with say security measures? This was it was answered by Ads Dawson, who's a project lead at OAS Platform from LLM. So, what on long story start, what he says, like he tries to say that try to engage with cross team stakeholders to clearly define AI integration boundaries and scope, because you cannot protect what you don't know, right? So it's very important to know what exactly being developed using the AI technology, and try to establish some frameworks for threat modeling or red teaming, and try to use those framework to enforce or reinforce some of the security controls, right? And also try to implement a robust data protection or monitoring system, and maintain a layered defense, have a defensive approach to it. Most importantly, try to stay updated with the industry best practices by going through trainings, trying to collaborate with multiple experts, understanding that how the AI is getting evolved, what are the new techniques that's being developed, what are the new attack vectors being developed, and all that, right? Okay, when it comes to securing AI system, right, there are a few key components that's involved, right? Because as I mentioned earlier, AI security is not about only protecting the model or only taking care of the data. It involves multiple components, like data security, which is, I'd say, heart of the AI system, making sure the data is protected against multiple attacks, and the data integrity and privacy is very very important, because data is a heart of the AI. Whatever you're building, it involves so much of data, on which your models, you will train the models, or the model will be like given as an input, right? So the more secure the data, the more secure is the model. And also comes to the model security, which is basically, think of an adversarial machine learning, basically, which attackers try to abuse the model by itself, right? And then comes to the infrastructure, very important thing. So when something is being hosted on the infrastructure, let it be on cloud or on-prem, it is very important to have a segregated approach, meaning that you exactly need to know where your AI models are being hosted. And operational security, just not about running something and leaving it for there, right? You just need to monitor and get some continuous feedback and know what exactly is happening, how the AI model is behaving based on the feedback, or based on the user input and everything, right? So the key idea is like, not only one component should be focused, it involves multiple component or the entire pipeline, right? Okay, so when it comes to understanding the AI threats, right, there is something approach to it. There is a classical cybersecurity threat, wherein like OWASP top 10, or like code security and all that, and there is advisory machine learning. So when it comes to AI system, data, as I mentioned, there involves a huge amount of data and external model. So you have to obviously adopt or secure the supply chain as well. So in addition to the data, there'll be some external libraries or like third-party components being used. So obviously, like the classical cybersecurity threats, supply chain will come into picture. Like your third-party components, your dependencies on them are also to be secured, right? On the other hand, there are other like something called adversarial machine learning techniques to attack the by model itself, right? Basically, they try to attack the model to produce some harmful content like data poisoning or model evasion attacks, right? So it's, I'd say it's a combination of both the classical cybersecurity or the traditional cybersecurity approach, as well as something focused on machine learning or artificial intelligence, right? Okay. Now, when it comes to the securing AI system, very high level approach. This is a very high level approach when you get into getting started with AI security. So, wherein you are a position where you exactly not sure what to start or like what to begin with, I think this is the approach you can take. So, the first thing is the start with a risk assessment. Basically, I'll call it as an analyze. So, try to focus on security risk related to your AI systems based on your organization or like procedures or policies or like framework. Definitely you will have some established framework in your organization, right? So try to assess those according to the framework that's been defined, right? And once you define, maybe you can also do some type of threat modeling. I think threat modeling technique is not something new. You can very well use traditional threat modeling techniques like stride, red, and all that, just to make sure that how each component talk to each other, right? And then once you do the risk assessment, you know where to prioritize your risk, right? Based on the risk level, impact, and the available resources. So it's kind of a differentiate your risk assessment and threat modeling, right? Risk assessment, wherein is something good, it's a huge risk, it's a business risk to the organization, there is a business impact, and then you classify the risk based on the CIA triad as a confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and then the likelihood of categorizes medium, high, or based on that you will know which risk to focus first and then what to prioritize, right? And then secure. So what do you mean by secure is like identify relevant actions and control measure to secure the AI system. So once you identify a risk, you should identify what is the action that's going to be taken, what are the control measures to be taken, right? Which I'll cover later part of the presentation as well, right? And then once you've done everything, try to evaluate the residual risk after implementing security measures. What I'm trying to say is like let's say you did everything and there is some type of vulnerability has been identified, or the system is like kind of vulnerable to some attacks, and then once you try to mitigate, identify or do a post mitigation review where exactly has something was gone wrong, what is the stages before, for example, analyze, rank, and secure, try to find out what exactly is the gap and try to remediate that as well, right? Okay, this is also very important. Know your stakeholders, right? It's just not one team that can handle everything, or like one team focuses on securing AI system, or not that any system, right? So when it comes to AI, or like artificial intelligence thing, you need to involve multiple stakeholders. It could be your decision owners like product owners, product managers, and AI practitioners. Very important, as developers, engineers, and data scientists. Don't just stick with developer or an engineer who just kind of a POC, or like who talks with the security team and all that. Try to involve everybody. And then most importantly, from the cybersecurity team, involve the application security team, your legal team, and governance, risk, and compliance. Because when everybody comes together during your risk assessment, or like some design review, something, every feedback of every input from each member will be very important. Because let's say you do not involve GRC team, you never know what is the policy of usage of some chat GPT, or like what is the guideline they have developed and all that. So you might miss some important risk when you do the risk assessment and all that, right? Okay. Hardening the model is not allowed. So you need to take a holistic approach when it comes to AI systems as well. Everybody, I think most of us will know the secure SDLC model that been followed over the years for web and all the assets, like right from the planning and design, doing threat modeling, SaaS, DAST, until DevOps, DevSecOps, and all that, right? So I recommend we take similar approach, but the controls and the approach, or the activities that we do will be bit different when it comes to AI SDLC model. And I'll touch upon some of the key activities that can be taken at each phase, so that you can focus on these things, right? When it comes to planning and design, it's very important to raise the awareness across multiple teams to know what exactly is being developed, and why they need to what is the requirement of being something is being developed and something is used. And most of the people are not aware of how to use AI, or like they know how to use AI, but not what data has to be shared, or like what data has to be trained on and everything. So very important is to raise awareness, right? And as mentioned earlier, you can conduct that modeling to identify potential vulnerabilities in early stages, and it will help you to focus on data protection, access control, and all that, right? Governance and compliance, yes, very important. You need to know with the legal and privacy standards to be followed and not to be followed, and define very clear security requirements, saying that where the model should be downloaded, what is the data should be going in, is this containing any sensitive information, and all that, right? Okay, then it comes to development. So obviously you need to secure the supply chain, as mentioned earlier. It involves third party components as well. So you need to make sure all the dependencies, third party libraries are also protected, additional to the AI system also. And yeah, during development, it's necessary to follow the secure coding and secure design practices. And you also need to do the model hardening, meaning that sometimes the model by itself might be vulnerable. So it's very important to understand the model. Let's say you use some open source model, understand what exactly is the use of that model. Is there anything being compromised there, and all that? And define access control. Not just, it can't be everybody getting access to the model or to the AI systems or the AI pipeline. Define access controls. And when it comes to deployment, very important, environment security. So try to segregate the development and production environment. This will be most of the cases, but still when it comes to AI, it's very important, so that in case of any abuse or something goes wrong, data is not leaked. And enforce monitoring and logging, so that in terms of any real-time threat detection, you have been alerted of being what has been identified. And also develop contingency plans to manage anything disruption, including backups or failovers. And try to regularly update and enforce security policies across all the deployment environment. When it comes to operation and maintenance, try to AI systems monitor the AI system to detect abnormal outputs, because you never know. Sometimes the output is very important. When it comes to AI, the feedback is very immediate. It's not feedback will be provided later in point in time. When it comes to AI, the feedback is very important, which is a key factor as well, right? So in case of any potential threat, you need to keep monitoring and also validate your input to reduce risk from adversarial or malicious data submission. So don't blindly trust any input being submitted by the users or any third party softwares, right? Have an incident management process in place so that if some incident happen, you know which team to identify in terms of detection, response, and recovery, right? And the last phase, end of life, it's not just deleting the model or deleting the data and leaving it all there. So it's very making sure that whenever the model is being decommissioned and the data is also deleted in a secure manner, maintain a record of security best practices for future reference or audit, and then make sure that your data disposal aligns with the data protection regulations and organization policies, right? And most importantly, don't just stick with one cycle. Do a repeating cycle of this entire SDLC life cycle so that you get feedback during multiple cycles. After doing multiple cycles, you understand, you really know what are the gaps, and you can change your activities or change the approach at any stage whenever required. Okay, coming to the use case, let me explain you with a use case so that you understand these things better, right? Okay, let me tell the example scenario. A company wants to implement a LLM based chatbot. We will call this as Genie bot, right? The model is basically an LLM that's being downloaded from an open source hosting website called, maybe anybody will know, Hugging Face. And then there are further developments in house in a cloud environment. Okay, the data is sourced basically from the frequently asked questions from customer service conversations and all that, which then converted into a vector database and implemented using the RAG with the downloaded. Let's not deep dive into what is a vector database, what is RAG, and all that. It's basically just to understand. We have something called Genie bot, which is basically a chat bot. The data will be like the frequently asked questions based on the conversation that support agents had with the users, right? Very simple. This is the overall architecture. As I mentioned, there is a raw data. You'll see some of the Intel document and frequently asked questions, which is then fed into the LLM model. There is a data pipeline, and there are some agents that's being acting as part of the model, using which we will, you have a front end query, front end UI, which talk to the user, takes the query, and then the LLM will, send the response, right? So this is very very simple architecture. It's not an extensive one, just for kind of a understanding purpose only, right? So when it comes to this type of architecture, let's say, as I mentioned earlier, start with a basic risk assessment, right? So whenever this type of architecture is being shared to the cybersec team, what they can do is they can do a risk identification. So when you look at this, basically, as I mentioned earlier, they are relying on the third party open source LLM, right? And also third party AI components. So obviously, this will be vulnerable to supply chain attacks. That's a one or the easy win that teams can identify. Let's look at some of the risk identified at each stage, or at different entry points, right? So when it comes to data, right, obviously this is will be the data. So there are chances of data attacks. Going back to few slides back, it's not only the model itself, it's a holistic or the multiple components. One such component is data. We talked about data, right? So yeah, data. When it comes to data attacks, something called data poisoning, data exfiltration. And when it comes to model, there is always a model evasion, and you can also backdoor ML model. And when it comes to the response that being sent, LLM jailbreaks and external harms, which are something called guardrail attacks. And obviously, user query prompts, we call it as prompts, and then prompt injection and prompt leakage, right? Very simple and very basic assessment. This is not, kind of a very hard to do it. So as long as you know what are the components being involved, you can try to enumerate what are the possible risks that can be identified, right? So once you come up with something like this, very minimal, right, you just try to map something like this, right? Try to develop some risk scenarios, as I mentioned earlier, using the CIA triad, right? So you will know what are the risks that can potentially happen, right? And what is the impact, likelihood, and what is the mitigation, and what is the risk level. This entirely depends from organization to organization. For example, a telecom company might classify this as high, or like banking can classify as a critical. It differs from organization to organization, right? So basically these are some risk scenarios that got enumerated using the architecture diagram or using the Genie bot for the Genie bot. So prompt injection attack, obvious thing, and supply chain vulnerabilities because it involves a lot of third-party data, and model of denial of service because you try to query the chatbot. So sometimes a lot of queries can be sent using automated tools, which then cause that model denial of service, right? So some of the mitigations include you can use automated tools to remove the sensitive information from the data set, and also try to use sanitation mechanisms, right? Supply chain, obviously, scan the model, making sure that no vulnerabilities in third party code, anything, trying to sandbox the model, make sure the model is downloaded only from the trusted source. For the denial of service, straightforward thing, API throttling, right? So once you do this, you will understand, okay, so next, as we told, once you do this, now you will understand where exactly you need to focus. Depending on the right risk level, you need to focus. Okay, everything is like medium. Let's prioritize the prompt injection one, or let's prioritize the supply chain vulnerability, right? So this is a first step towards approaching security for, especially for the AI models being built, right? So when it comes to the SDLC mapping, we also talked about various stages wherein each controls or measures can be put in at different stages, right? So when it comes to the data attacks, obviously during development, data poisoning can be arrested. The data exfiltration can be arrested by enforcing controls in development, deployment, and operation model. Similar to that, try to come up with some SDLC, or like identify what controls can be adopted at each stage, try to map to them, and so that you make sure, then assess and make sure, okay, whether those controls are really enforced, whether those controls will arrest those issues, right? So yeah, with data attacks and then model attacks, evade ML models, obviously development. So development is something common across everything, right? Except the prompt injection, which then comes to the deployment and operation maintenance. So notify here, like most of the things can be arrested if the development phase is like controls has been established in the development phase. I mean, the right controls has been established in the development and the deployment, right? So I see majorly 2 3 4, which is like 2 and 3. So development and deployment, planning and design, pretty much straightforward. You just need to do the risk assessment, and then threat modeling and all that. And end of life, once this model is like decommissioned, then that will come to picture. So that's not being included here, right? I hope this gives some clear idea. Okay, so let's see quickly the some of the measures and controls to identify some of the attacks that's being identified here. So planning and design, our objective is to define a secure baseline system. As mentioned, threat modeling, you can have access policies, secure by design principles. Nothing changed that we discussed earlier. When it comes to deployment, I mean development, so yeah, implement one such control or one such objective that you need to have is like implement secure coding practices and secure data pipelines. When it comes to data pipelines, it can be the ML pipeline, or we call it as MLOps and all that. So some of the controls you need to have it is input filtering, backdoor testing, and all that, right? So what is the outcome? The outcome should be like protection against data and model attacks that we saw earlier, right? So here, like the data attacks and the pointing attack, right? So like this, you can map some of the outcome. So this is objective. You validate whether this control is being established, and try to check whether that control is in place and is working as expected, and expect the outcome, right? So if everything is put into place, obviously this threat will be definitely identified and arrested. Okay. When it comes to deployment, making sure that one such objective that we talk about is like secure integration. I mean, integration into the production environment, monitoring measures to identify potential threats. So you can have access control. So let's say external harms or model evasion, right? You have some access control policies or like define who exactly need to access the model or talk to the model. You can define a set of rules, and then you can try to arrest prompt injection attacks as well. And then isolation and secure hosting, meaning that making sure your production and staging or any other environment is separated from each other, so that there is no model can be abused to bring data that is not intended, right? And next comes the operation and maintenance. So continuously monitor prompts and responses to detect unusual patterns or exploit the model. And you can also perform testing, like we do the vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. Like you can also perform security testing using the OWASP top 10 LLMs and web LLMs and all that. And then test the model, make sure that they are resilient against some of the attacks there. And patch management, making sure that the model is regularly updated, and if there are new vulnerabilities, it has to be fixed as well. Some of the threats that can be addressed during this stage is data exploitation, jailbreaking, and cost harvesting. End of life, yes, as mentioned, securely delete sensitive data and training data to prevent data leaks, and then making sure that only the decommissioning of model is sufficient and the data is still realized. And if something happens, and then all the data is exposed. While you decommission the model, safely remove the model from active environment and restrict the access as well. This will lead to some of addressing the threats like data exploitation and residual exploits. Yep. By this, I think, yeah, we have almost reached the end of the session. So these are some of the resource and reference I had to share. So there are like good frameworks being developed, something like NIST, Artificial Risk Framework, and there is Mitre, Atlas Matrix, and there is a OWASP pattern file alarms, and Google there is a own security framework. So these type of frameworks will touch upon some of the points I discussed today, where exactly you need to approach, what controls has to be established and all that. And also I have some of good references, maybe you can take a look at later. Yeah, I think hope this gave you an idea, or the first step towards approaching AI security. Any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gautam, for this amazing session. Literally, I also got a lot, and I'm having that feeling like an audience also will enjoy this session, and they also learn better about the AI security. And it's really amazing how you segregate that each and everything in that session, where we will get to know from scratch to end, like how we can build it. So
Thank you.
I'm sure the people have that lot of queries with the Gotham. So you can keep right down here as well, and you can connect with the Gotham as well. So he can support you there. He can answer your queries definitely, right,
Yeah.
Gotham?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, feel free to shoot your questions. Like, I'm happy to help. Like, anytime over my social media handles, I can help you out. Yes.
Yeah. So a big thanks to Google for the sponsoring this event, and stay tuned for the next talk.
Okay. Thank you.